Today we are going to go over some cancelled video game projects and take a look at some early/leaked gameplay footage, screenshots, concept art, and more.
The games we will go over are Star Wars 1313, Batman the Dark Knight video game, the Avengers game by THQ, Super Mario 64 2, and a more recent found cancelled project, codenamed Project Marley. These are the top 5 cancelled video games in no particular order.
Star Wars 1313. Star Wars 1313 is a cancelled action-adventure game that was under development by LucasArts. The game would be a darker and a more gritty Star Wars game, which is really different from the usual Star Wars content. The game was officially revealed at E3 2012. It was revealed you would play as Boba Fett, a bounty hunter in his early adult life, navigating past the scum of civilization in an underground area of Coruscant known as Level 1313. As far as the weapons in the game, instead of using the expected lightsabers and force abilities, you would use fast-paced weapons and gadgets that you would expect from a bounty hunter. This game seems like a cool concept and would have given the player a very different perspective from what you would expect from a typical Star Wars game. The world looked very open and very reminiscent of the things we see of these areas in the movies. The game was being developed on Unreal Engine 3 with a video diary showing the game running in 64-bit mode with the DirectX 11 rendering path. As you can see from the gameplay, they offer some pretty cool mechanics as Boba Fett jumps, hangs, climbs, and overall navigates around through the map. Star Wars 1313 was also originally going to have direct involvement from Star Wars creator George Lucas, which would ultimately have most likely contributed to us getting a game straight from the source. On April 3, 2013, it was announced that the Walt Disney Company had ceased internal development of all LucasArts projects, including Star Wars 1313, putting it on hold, causing it to stay like that for a while. On March 1, 2013, it was reported that the game was still on hold, but a LucasArts representative reported that production for the game was still being continued, giving the fandom more hope. And finally, on April 3, 2013, it was announced that the Walt Disney Company laid off the LucasArts staff except a small few, leaving the LucasArts to remain open as a licensor, but as a result all the projects were shut down, including Star Wars 1313. Overall, this game looked extremely solid even early in development, and I bet the gameplay would have been great. The early mechanics polished up and looks of the background plus the character details could have contributed to lots of fun for all that played. It's too bad we can't play it, but who knows what could happen in the future. Batman the Dark Knight video game. Batman Dark Knight is a cancelled action video game that was loosely based on the 2008 Christopher Nolan film of the same name. The story closely followed that of the films, and the cast was signed on to voice their respective characters for the game. The film's distributor, Warner Bros., provided developer Pandemic Studios with the script, concept art, and other materials to assist. The game's earliest prototypes closely followed Batman Begins' gameplay approach as a linear action game. However, later versions placed Batman in an open-world version of Gotham City, which he could freely explore. Batman could traverse on foot, drive the Batmobile or Batpod, or glide through the air. The player could also perform missions. This game would have been the first open-world Batman game before the Arkham franchise. The game was first unofficially announced in the summer of 2007 to be developed by Pandemic Studios as an open-world game. The game's existence was unofficially confirmed by actor Gary Oldman on July 17, 2008, who played Jim Gordon in the movie, who was also set to reprise his role in the game. He talked about it in interviews and mentioned that the game developers were hard at work to make the intense action game. He never mentioned any release dates or who the publishers were, but it was speculated to be between Electronic Arts and Pandemic Studios and was to be released for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Development soon ran into problems as many of the senior developers had never worked on such a game. The staff had already started work on the game before they knew it was supposed to be a tie-in game, causing them to scrap most of what they made. The game engine for the Saboteur was chosen, but was troublesome as it proved to not suit an open-world game. Regardless, development would continue, but the engine updates would only cause the game to suffer more. The decision was made to push the release date back to December to be launched along with the DVD release of the film. By September, alpha testing was supposed to begin, but the game was in very bad shape and it was clear that it wouldn't make the December deadline. As a result of all this, the game would be cancelled because of how behind and bad the game was at the time. Overall, this game looks like it would have been a really fun open-world Batman game inside the Christopher Nolan universe, considering that there was a lot of work that got done, even though it didn't make the publishing cut. The Avengers. The Avengers is a cancelled first-person brawler video game set to be released in 2012, to coincide with the release of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, film of the same name. The game wasn't a direct tie-in game, but more of an original story in the same universe. The game would follow its own story, being inspired by the Secret Invasion comics. The gameplay was to be co-op, between 4 players offline and online, with teamwork being an essential mechanic. Each of the playable characters would have a unique play style, such as Iron Man being able to fly while the Hulk had the strongest melee attacks. Assist attacks allowed players to stun enemies, leaving them open to be finished off by other players, such as Thor summoning lightning with Captain America finishing off the opponent using his shield. Players could also earn experience points from performing a series of melee attack combos on stunned enemies, which would go on to unlock additional abilities. Hero boosts used by the player could increase stats of other players depending on the character, such as Iron Man creating energy shields around his allies for a limited time. Because of the fact that you would earn XP most likely means there would be a character level system where you could get more powers and abilities. Because the Skrull were going to be a big part of the game, being the main villains, they were to have unique abilities based on a variety of superheroes such as the Fantastic Four, X-Men and the Avengers themselves, with bosses such as Ultron, Varanki and a giant Skrull. Other characters such as Black Widow and Hawkeye were also considered to be unlockable characters, along with the Fantastic Four and Ant-Man, who were also included as NPCs. The main consoles for the game were planned to be the PS3 and Xbox 360. Plans for a Wii U was also considered around the system's launch, and console features such as the Kinect for a mode called Avengers Training Academy, which would have the player take control of a rookie superhero to fight along the Avengers using motion controls, but both were later cut during pre-production. During mid-2011, the game was struggling to keep up with development, with THQ's financial problems with Homefront and the UDRAW peripheral costing the company $100 million and the value of the Australian dollar to rise, causing THQ to pay their employees in Australia more than their domestic divisions, which led to the decision to shut down both THQ Studio Australia and Blue Tongue Entertainment. In the last few weeks of the developers being shut down, they reached out to Marvel Entertainment in hopes to continue funding and developing the title, which Marvel refused to, with the game officially being cancelled. After the game's cancellation, THQ sold off their properties, with Ubisoft acquiring the license to make their own tie-in game to the film, borrowing some of the game's concepts and story to create Marvel Avengers. Battle for Earth for Xbox 360 and Wii U, released on October 20, 2012. In the end, this game most likely would have been a hit, considering not only its cool concept but the fact that the Avengers movie was a hit already. It's sad to see what we could have had, but then again, maybe we'll see more of it or be able to play it one day. Super Mario 64 2. Mario 64 2, also called SM64 2, was a planned sequel of the 1996 Nintendo 64 game Super Mario 64, set for release in 1999, or possibly 2000. It was to be sold for the Nintendo 64DD. Some expected features in the game include being two-player, Luigi's character in the game, and a rideable Yoshi. The director Shigeru Miyamoto's first playable demo level was multiplayer. It is also unknown what power-ups, if any, were going to appear in the game. It is also possible that Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy, or Super Mario Galaxy 2 could have elements salvaged from the development of Super Mario 64 2, according to Nintendo during an E3 event. It was going to be for the Nintendo 64DD, but was cancelled early in production due to lack of progress and the commercial failure of the 64DD add-on. Only one demo level was ever made but was never publicly revealed. Super Mario 64 2 seemed like it would have been a hit considering the facts that the game would bring in the much-wanted multiplayer feature as well as many more unknown concepts that would have been cool to play. Maybe someday in the future we will get more information on the game. Codename Project Marley. According to a Nintendo Life report, the game that was codenamed Project Marley would have a Diablo-like design focused on exploring dungeons, and had a roster that included characters from The Muppets, Toy Story, Frozen, Winnie the Pooh, The Nightmare Before Christmas, and more. This Disney game is said to have been in development for 4 years, but after the release of Disney Dreamlight Valley, this project reportedly lost direction and was eventually canned. This is extremely unfortunate because of how fun it would be to play as all the new and old Disney characters there are. While there isn't much information about this project online, it is crazy to see that we could have potentially had an open-world LEGO Disney game. As you can see, there are lots of cool video games projects that were worked on and ended up getting cancelled. It would have been cool to have seen finished versions of all the games we've mentioned, but again, who knows, maybe one day we will be able to play them in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit the like button and subscribe. It helps me a lot. And if you have any suggestions for video ideas you would like to see, let me know down in the comments and I'll definitely look into and consider it. Stay tuned because we have a lot more coming in the future. I'll catch you guys in the next one.